Hello everyone, welcome back. In the last video, we talked about how to create the custom connector from the portal, from the PowerAutomate or PowerApps. Right now, in this video, we'll be talking about how to create a custom connector from the OpenAPI definition file. With this approach, we can reuse this OpenAPI definition file across across PowerAutomate, PowerApps, and LogicApps. The structure of the file will be like this. Like we need to specify what version of Swagger OpenAPI will be used, and you need to specify the information about the connector, like the title, description, status, contacts, etc., and the host URL and supported schemes like HTTP, HTTPS, and then we need to consume like what kind of APIs, pods, like whether it is action or triggers, or what kind of request APIs, headers, bodies, responses, definitions, and then parameters, whether the API needs any parameters, etc. All these details will be using this in the OpenAPI definition file, right? So below is a sample Swagger file, OpenAPI definition file. So this is a sample definition file that will be used for the demo. Like this file has the information about creating a custom connector for getting all the flows in an environment. So the input will be the environment ID. So if you provide the environment ID, it will get you the details of all the flows present in the particular environment. So that is the custom connector we'll be creating for the demo. First, we need to define the information, like what is the version of this particular file, and the title, description. All the section will goes under the info, and we'll be defining the host base path. The host URL is api.flow.microsoft.com is for the API, and then remaining path will be setting up over here. So all the actions will be specifying under the paths, right? So this is the remaining path of the URL, and then bracket environment underscore name is a query parameter. So that is a dynamic one. So we need to get the input from the users, right? So we'll be defining that as a query parameter, So if you see under parameters, we have the environment name and the API version. This API version's the value I have defined it as a default. Even though the environment value is set as default, this can be override by the users. This is sample value, we can override with the environment ID. So this API has two parameters. One is for the environment ID and another one is the API version. Okay, and so this has the API and what is the HTTP. Like this is a GET API, and we need to define the summary of this on this API, like summary, description, and then operation ID, and then visibility of this particular action in the that will be used in the apps. And what is the response? If you have a default response, then we need to if you have a custom responses, then we need to define. In this case, I'll just keep it as a default versions, and what kind of security definitions. So right now I'm just using the OAuth 2.0. Okay, and this completes the definition file. This is a sample file. I uploaded this file in the GitHub, and I'll attach the reference written in the descriptions. Once this file is created, once you provided all the details, just go to PowerAutomate or PowerApps, click on the data. You have data over here and under the custom connectors, right? So in the custom connectors, import it from the API. Import, click on new custom connectors and then import. Select the option import from OpenAPI file, right? So we import from OpenAPI file and then provide the swag, the OpenAPI definitions file. That has been referred. I attached that in a GitHub. Just download it and upload it. If we edit that file, we will be seeing the exact 5 steps that has been we have seen this in the previous examples, right? So in this general section, it takes all the values from the JSON files. You can override these values over here. And if right now we are connecting this custom connector via the internet for getting all the flows in the environment. That's why we haven't selected the options for the connect via on-premise data gateway. We have given the scheme and we have given the host and base URL in the JSON file. And we have selected the security as all, right? And then identity provider as Azure AD. So I created the app in the Azure AD for this particular demo. So we'll be specifying the client ID, client secret, and then the resource URL. All these details will be provided over here, right? And these definitions, we have provided these definitions in the JSON file, right? So the JSON file, we have provided all the operations, visibility, and then we have defined the request URL. What is the request URL? What is the request verb, etc. All these details has been provided in the JSON file. So all we need to see is just check the validation, whether the validation is succeeded or not. Yes, this validation is succeeded, and we haven't written any code, or we haven't written any policies to override this particular API. Like we don't need any kind of extra methods or functions to override these functionalities. All we need to do is call this simple API and get the responses. That's it. We don't want to do any calculations or any other tricky things based on the responses, right? We just need to call this API and get the responses. So once this is done, we need to test this connections, right? So in the test tab, click on the test tab. So this is the exact action that we have performed in the JSON. Like we have two parameters, right, for this API. Like first parameter is the environment ID, second is the API versions. So the API version has to be 2016-11, the exact same version for this API. So leave that as a default thing and just mention the environment ID. If you click on test operation, this will give you the status and then the body of the responses. Right now we have only two flows in the environment in this trial account. So this is how the results appears. We get the properties of the flows, like the display name of the flow, and the sharing type, creator time, and what is the environment this flow resides, and what is the trigger this flow, and what are the actions this flow has, and who created this flow, whether the flow is managed, and etc. All these details will be present over here, right? And if you want to edit this Swagger file in the portal itself, then you need to select this option like Swagger editor. This will give you the Swagger file that we have uploaded over here. If you want to do any changes, you can update this file, and you can save this file. You can update this connector and close the connector, right? So this is how the custom connectors using the OpenAPI definition has been created. So if you go to flows, like I already added this action in the test flow. Let me show you that. So if you edit this particular flow that has been created, this is simple for just to show the demo for using the custom connector. So this is the custom connector, right? So if you click on add an action, and under the custom, we'll be seeing the get flows, right? So this is the custom connector action that we have defined via the OpenAPI and updated inside the custom connector that is visible now. So I already executed that flow before some time. So if you see the flow has been executed successfully, and we'll be seeing all the details under the body, right? So this is how we'll be creating the custom connector via the OpenAPI definition, right? So we need to provide the information, general information like the title, description, host URL, base scheme, and we need to define our request like get, post, or something, and we need to define the parameters for those things, and we need to define the responses, and we need to define the definitions, security definitions, like the authentication type and then identity providers, etc. So once this is done, we'll be able to upload this particular OpenAPI definition file via the custom connectors, and create the custom connectors, and test the connectors, update and test the connectors, and use the connectors in the flow of PowerAutomate or PowerApps. So in this demo, we talked about creating the custom connectors from the OpenAPI definition file. In the next demo, we'll see how to add the existing custom connector inside the solution, or how to create a custom connector inside the solution of the PowerAutomate or PowerApps, and how we can manage the custom connectors inside the solutions, right? See you in the next demo. Thank you.